All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're exploring the fascinating, invisible, microscopic world that literally builds our entire reality. We're talking about the fundamental architecture of life itself.
So think about this for a second. What invisible architecture is shared between, say, a massive lion roaming the savannah, the delicate tissues of a human lung, and the meal sitting on your dinner plate? At first glance, absolutely nothing. But if you zoom in close enough, way past the tissues and the cells, you'll actually find the exact same microscopic materials constructing all of them.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover 1. Meeting the micromolecules, 2. Folding into proteins, 3. Enzymes as biocatalysts, 4. The essential line, and finally, 5. The nitrogen connection.
Okay, Section 1. Meet the micromolecules, scaling down to the basics. To truly understand biology, we have to scale way, way down, past the cellular level, right to the absolute basics of matter. It all starts with a single atom. When those atoms bond, they form a molecule. And then in biological systems, when these base molecules start combining into massive, intricate chains, they form a macromolecule. It's essentially the ultimate biological assembly line. And right at the center of this assembly line are amino acids. You can think of amino acids as, well, the ultimate biological Lego bricks. They're essential micromolecules. On their own, sure, they're tiny and pretty simple, but they act as the fundamental building blocks that literally snap together to construct the highly complex proteins doing all the heavy lifting in our bodies. This perfectly illustrates that stark contrast between micro and macro. Notice how simple units like glucose, fatty acids, and our focus for today, amino acids, act as the raw materials. When they're stacked together, they construct the incredibly complex structures you see here: carbohydrates, lipids, and complex proteins. The small completely dictates the large.
Moving on to Section 2, folding into proteins, building the macro.
So we've seen the individual bricks, but what actually happens when they link up? Well, it's all about the power of scale. Individual units of these amino acids combine in incredibly complex, repeating formations. They don't just form boring straight lines either. They twist, they spiral, and they fold into highly specific, three-dimensional macromolecules. These folded chains, they become the proteins that make up your muscles, your hair, your organs, the whole shebang. Section 3. Enzymes, the biocatalysts.
But here's the thing. Proteins aren't just structural. They are functional biological machines. Notice how enzymes are mostly proteins, which means that those exact same 3D folded chains of amino acids we were just talking about. Their specific shapes are tightly held together by chemical connections, like hydrogen bonds. And because of this incredibly precise shape, they can speed up chemical reactions in the body without actually being used up themselves.
Our bodies constantly need chemical reactions to survive, right? But normally, these reactions require huge amounts of activation energy, basically high temperatures or pressures that would absolutely destroy a living organism. That's where enzymes come in as biocatalysts. They grab the reactants, bring them together, and dramatically lower the activation energy required. They basically allow biological reactions to proceed rapidly and, most importantly, safely at the relatively low temperatures of our own bodies.
So how do they actually pull this off? It's through a feature called the active site. Because the amino acid chain is folded into such a highly specific 3D shape, it creates a tiny, specialized pocket. The reactant, which we call the substrate, fits into this active site perfectly. It's exactly like a key sliding into a lock. If the shape isn't perfect, no way, the reaction just doesn't happen. Section 4. The Essential 9, Nutrition and You. Let's step out of the cellular lab for a second and talk directly about you, your daily life, and the food you eat. Across all the dizzying complexity of the human body, every single protein is made from a pool of just 20 amino acids. That is it. Just 20 variations of these micromolecules construct absolutely everything. Our bodies are incredibly resourceful, so we can actually synthesize several of these internally.
But the absolutely crucial point here is this single digit, 9. Out of the 20 amino acids required for human life, there are exactly 9 that our bodies simply cannot synthesize on their own. We completely lack the internal biological machinery to build them from scratch. We call these the essential amino acids. As the source material bluntly puts it, they must be consumed in the diet. This is exactly why what you eat matters on a microscopic level.
A balanced diet isn't just about, counting calories. It is literally the act of handing your cells the raw, essential building blocks they need to maintain tissues, build those enzymes, and just keep your body functioning properly.
And here's where we find them. Take a look at this mouth-watering spread. Meats, eggs, fish, beans, nuts, dairy. These protein-rich foods are the tangible, everyday sources of our essential microscopic building blocks. When you digest these foods, your body is breaking down their macromolecule proteins back into those micromolecule amino acids, getting them ready to be rebuilt into human proteins.
Here we can clearly contrast carbohydrates on the left against complex proteins on the right. Because proteins are incredibly complex, highly folded structures of amino acids, the body actually takes much longer to break them down. This means that compared to, say, a quick sugar rush from carbs, proteins provide a much slower, longer-lasting source of sustained energy.
Section 5. The nitrogen connection. Ecosystem scale.
Finally, let's zoom out from human nutrition, way past the dinner plate, and look at the broader global ecosystem. How do amino acids even get into our food in the first place? Well, it all starts in the dirt. Long before an amino acid ends up in an egg or a bean, plants have to synthesize it. And to do that, they desperately need nitrogen. Nitrogen is the absolute essential element that plants pull directly from the soil to construct the very first amino acids at the base of the food chain.
The ripple effect of nitrogen on plant life is just massive. Of all the metabolic elements plants absorb, nitrogen is required in the largest amounts. It doesn't just synthesize amino acids. It's required for the production of chlorophyll so the plant can photosynthesize, it produces nucleic acids, and it creates the plant's own enzymes. It really is the foundational starting point for all of this.
And you can immediately see what happens to an ecosystem when it's deprived of this core element. Without enough nitrogen to create amino acids and chlorophyll, plants suffer from stunted growth, massively reduced crop yields, and their foliage turns a sickly, pale green. The entire microscopic assembly line just grinds to a halt. So without nitrogen in the soil, plants simply can't make amino acids. And without healthy plants acting as the foundation of the food web, where do we get our essential 9?
From the physics of single atoms to the precise 3D folding of enzymes, right up to the food on your plate and the nitrogen in the earth, amino acids truly are the ultimate building blocks of life. So the next time you sit down for a meal, ask yourself, how many different microscopic ecosystems had to thrive just to build the essential line currently sitting on your plate? Thanks for joining me, keep questioning the world around you, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.